Hey, Mark here. So before you listen to the episode, I just want you to know that we had a few technical difficulties on this episode, so the audio is not perfect. However, we brought Doug back from our zombie tournament that a lot of y'all loved, so we brought him back to talk about the Dawn of the Dead remake, and it's a wonderful discussion. We had a great time diving into the movie and just discussing why it works, but the audio is not perfect. So we apologize for this, but I really think you're going to enjoy this discussion. So sit back, relax. Sorry about the not great audio, but you're going to love the A+++ content. All right, enjoy. Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man that just got done selling TVs at Best Buy. It's Douglas Bramman. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing really well.
So I know you're really terrible at being a husband, but you're great at being a father. Well, actually, that's Jake Weber from Dawn of the Dead. But I love that character, don't you? Like, the more I watch this movie, the more I like Michael. Michael's an interesting dude in this movie, in Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 remake.
Absolutely. Sometimes when you watch a movie, you kind of link the character to being a good guy or a bad guy. And I thought he was probably the best good guy. But I'll be honest, one of my favorite actors. I just got to make sure I'm picking the right guy here.
Let's see. Michael Kelly, CJ?
No, I liked him too. For some reason, hold on. Let me look and make sure. I want to make sure I'm talking about the right person. Ty Burrell.
Oh yeah.
He was awesome in that movie, and I was like, he was one of my favorite characters as far as watching his interaction with all the other characters. Like, he injected something extra into that movie that really made it much better, in my opinion.
Yeah, the dude, he was super smarmy in that. I mean, he just, but like, he even turns heel but when leaving the door later on. But this is weird because sometimes people turn heel, but there's that scene where they're like, oh, you stay with the door. I'm like, he's just going to leave the door. You're stupid for letting him watch this door. He's going to leave it. So it's like, he is so shifty. Just don't give him a job, Doug. Don't bring him with you. Don't give him a gun. Don't trust him to lock anything. Just let him drink coffee and record his videos and do all that and just do your own thing, right? Like, I think it's their fault for trusting him to hold a door open.
Yeah, I agree. He revealed to them very early on when he met all the survivors what type of person he was. So If you picked that person to be your escape route in case things went bad, yeah, that's kind of on you.
Yeah, right. And there's something refreshing about this, and I don't know how you feel about this, but like in the real world, I like people you just know who they are up front. Because we work with a lot of people. Like, we did Comic-Cons together. You meet some people out there, and the people that you know are just a pain in the butt. They're easier to deal with than the people who are kind of shifty. They're kind of, will they be there? Won't they be there? Like, you know that Steve will never be there. So you're like, okay, I can plan around that. So it's like, I find that, Steve didn't go overboard into like Biff jerkiness. Like, he was just a weird spoiled dude in a mall drinking coffee. He drank what did he drink all of? And the lady had to take Mekhi Phifer had to take the vanilla stuff, the orange.
Yeah, it was something about like the lemon flavored drink because he liked it in his like margaritas, or I forget what drink she said, but yeah, he's like the one friend you have where he's fun to hang out with, but you don't call that guy when you need to move out of an apartment to give you a hand because he's not going to show.
No, never. Nothing big, nothing that you have to trust him on. I would not do that. But I gotta tell you, watching this movie, right? This came out in 2004. I remember I watched it in Texas. It was either San Antonio or Houston. And your memory plays tricks on you, but I feel like I was in a theater with 500 people. Easy. At least. Like, I want to say 1,000, but there's no way it's 1,000 people. But in my head, I see this massive crowd, about, let's say 500 people, which you can fit that in a large theater. They went crazy for this movie. The experience of sitting in the theater watching this film it's probably like a top 10 moment for me in a cinema. And you know what's interesting is I was even more surprised looking back at it. Like, this movie has a 75% tomato meter score, 7.3 on IMDb, 79% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, this is a movie that was written by James Gunn, directed by Zack Snyder, that audiences and critics like. And that's so weird to me, Doug. That's why, like, I asked that question on Movies, Films, and Flicks Facebook. What do you like about this? And I asked you, what do you like about this? Why is this a good horror remake? This is an outlier in the world of horror remakes. Like, I think I did an average of all the horror remakes. It's like 37%. You can count the best remakes on, a couple hands. I don't know. If you're a real jerk, you could do like, oh, well, there's 11. But, okay. My long question is, what makes Dawn of the Dead a good remake? And what made it popular with critics? And what made it popular with audiences? Like, what? People love this movie.
I think that it was just a fun movie. I mean, like, you're thinking it's a horror genre, so to speak, but there are parts that are scary in that movie, and suspense. They don't know what's around the corner, and there's always a threat, they think. But I just thought it was a fun movie. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. But I got to start with my biggest reason that I thought the movie worked well was the music.
Yes.
That was like one thing when I read your Facebook and I was watching all these things, Hannah. So many people are on the same page that the music that went with this movie was just perfect in every way.
Like, you have Stereophonics, Have a Nice Day in the beginning, like the cheeky gag. Then you have Johnny Cash in a beautiful intro that sets the tone for the film. Richard Cheese covering Down with the Sickness. And then you have Down with the Sickness at the very end. Like, it's just, it captures, and you know what's interesting on the commentary? Zack Snyder, I think I told you this, Zack Snyder, like, everyone hated the music he picked, but then they watched the finished cut, everyone started taking credit for it. So, like, they're funky picks, right? And it just, you know what it is, man? To me, it shows an intelligence in the filmmaking. With the cheeky Have a Nice Day and the Johnny Cash. It shows these people knew what they were doing, if that makes sense to you.
Oh, absolutely. And, one thing that I wanted to make sure I had some notes to reference to make sure I stayed on point and on track with this. This movie, when you talk just about music, just about the music in the movie and it being a good movie, reminded me of Star Wars in a way. And it's going to be hard to make that crossover. But when Star Wars was made, disco was very popular, right? Kind of like at that time and state, all those movies had like a disco sound to it. And George Lucas was like, I'm going to do classical music. And maybe at the time people criticized him and said, I don't know, I don't think this is going to work. But when you watch the finished product of Star Wars, could you imagine what Star Wars would look like if it was disco music playing in the background instead of George Williams, like, just putting together a score so perfect for that film that everyone knows Star Wars. They know the Imperial March. They know all those things because it made those films great. And I really felt like, and the opening with Johnny Cash and all of that video footage that they put together was so perfect to set the tone of the entire movie.
I totally agree with you. And I think Zack Snyder's background working on music videos really helped him. Because a lot of people think that making music video, because I worked on them, they're hell. Like, oh gosh, like 20-hour days. You just want to, like, I retired in like 2013 from music video. 2011, I retired working on those things. But when you shoot a music video, you have 3 minutes to tell a story. You have 3.5 minutes to tell a story. So you have to storyboard. You have to think of what's going to be where's this verse? Where's this chorus? Where's this beat? Where are they going to put their hands down when like when the bass kicks in? You're thinking in terms of molding a story in 3.5 minutes. And this is Snyder's directorial debut with this film. But I think he incorporated his really, and this is before he started Watchmen and just sort of, Leonard Cohen, I think he started going heavy on that. But no, I think his music video background shone through on this. But I also am impressed because music videos have so many quick cuts. But I think this movie holds just long enough. It's not edited into oblivion. So, yeah, no, the music's excellent. I love how I just think he thought it out. That's my long thing. I think he knew what he was doing with this movie. They seemed to have confidence. They went to Canada. They found an abandoned mall. They shot in it. And I think it just turned out really well. It's this weird thing. James Gunn, when he was writing the script for this movie, he was known for the Scooby-Doo films. So he had over 100,000 people saying, tens of thousands of people were saying, don't write this movie. We hate you. He got death threats for writing a remake because he was Scooby-Doo guy. He wasn't Slither guy yet. He wasn't Guardians of the Galaxy got yet. So Ain't It Cool News were pissed off about it. Then Ain't It Cool News finally read the script and they liked it. But this is in the time of all the horror remakes, man. The Ring, all those movies were just pouring into theaters. So you have a remake to Dawn of the Dead, right? And we talked about this on our zombie tournament, which you should definitely listen to. You and I talked about it, Doug, for an hour and 40 minutes. But Dawn of the Dead is just really a thinking person's film. It drains you, it exhausts you, but it's about consumerism. There's a message. It's well acted. It's diverse. It's different. It's almost nihilistic. So you have this critically adored, fan adored classic being remade by the guy who wrote Scooby-Doo in a time of horror remakes. And then this comes out and it works. So this is why I love movies like this. This is an outlier. And I love studying outliers because on average, it probably shouldn't have been a success, right? And so I just dig all the choices they made. And I was reading Roger Ebert's review. I promise Doug will be able to talk soon. I was reading Roger Ebert's review about this, and he hates horror movies. But he loved, and he backed up a point that you said, where it's more of like an action film. It's more of it's not really horror-esque. It's more a focus on the characters. And no characters really do dumb things in this movie if you think about it. They have to go in the parking garage to get the power back on. They send the dog to go get Andy, right? Andy, yeah. Andy's guns to go get him some food so they can get the bullets and drive out of there, which is smart. Now, some people have said that driving after the dog when it ran after, so when Nicole drives after the dog, people are like, that's stupid. But I heard Christina Aguilera was at the premiere of Dawn of the Dead, and she said that was the absolute right thing that she would do. She would do that too. If my cat did that, I'd go after it. I don't care. I'd jump in a car and level zombies. So her going after the dog wasn't even that dumb because they had to go over there anyway to get those bullets. So there's really no super stupid choices except for letting Steve watch the door. But you know what I mean? There's no hello.
Absolutely.
You do have the croquet scene where he has a crowbar and he grabs a croquet stick, but that's more for a gag, right? That's not for this guy's an idiot. And he uses it to murder the zombie, which is a great special on the DVD if you watch it. The mold of that guy's head was perfect. You know, that's played for laughs. And so this movie doesn't have this, the teens being stupid. This is an adult cast led by indie actress Sarah Polley, right? This isn't kids in a film. This is adults acting in a movie written by James Gunn where they do relatively smart things. It's very refreshing, at least to me. That's the way I feel towards it.
Yeah, and you know, most zombie movies, in fact, all of them that I have enjoyed watching, there's always that time period where the characters are trying to figure out how to solve the problem of the zombies. And they either get it through information such as news reports, through trial and error, through, you know, dumb luck. Mm-hmm. If you think of World War Z, when Brad Pitt's trying to figure out how can we beat these things, and he's talking and he sees and observes that some people aren't being attacked, and without taking the time to stop and look around and see what's happening, you don't understand that at the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. And I think that in this, same thing. They're holed up in a mall. You know, they're trying to figure out a solution to the problem. And that's part of the story of most zombie movies, in my opinion, is this figuring out how do we deal with this problem.
Yeah. And there's ABC thinking the smart people rise to the top. And you know what's interesting about this, too, is when Dawn of the Dead hit the theater in, 78, Night of the Living Dead preceded it. So you knew that there were zombies. This is a world that was later taken over by zombies. So everyone in this movie had been living with zombies for some time.
Right.
This one, the attack's immediate. And I do think it's, I know in the beginning, going to a mall, you have the ideas of consumerism, and they had to sweep the mall. That was much in this one, no one was in the mall, but you did have the security guards in there, which maybe helped lock everything up. Because it was the morning, so maybe everything was locked up at night, so there weren't many people in there during the day. But it just seems like the worst spot to be, because there's so many doors. I used to work in a mall, the theater. There's so many doors to get into. Tactically, it's a horrible spot. But I do think Dawn of the Dead is just, every time you walk in a mall now, you want to, run to a mall because it's not. What am I trying to say here? What I'm saying is, a mall is a terrible place, I think, to hole out. But I do love the idea of it. I mean, I think it feels good in this film. I don't know. What do you think? Is a mall a good place to hold out in a zombie attack?
You know, I think
it has shatterproof glass, though.
Yeah. So if they knew ahead of time the scale of the outbreak and the true threat it posed to them, I don't know if they would have made the same decision